Monday Night Nerd, and tonight we are going to be talking about Oscar-worthy performances in movies. There have been some incredible movies out, and we've got some top performances to talk about tonight. We got about 10 of them, so stick around here on Monday Night Nerd. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Monday Night Nerd. I am so excited for you all to be here. We have got a great show ahead of us. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Myers Corp Cosplay. I have been a cosplayer for over a decade. I've been a nerd since birth. You've heard the stories. I am just a giant nerd here on YouTube talking about things that make me smile, and I hope makes all of you smile. Thank you for joining us here live. And if you're watching this later on, thank you for watching in general. It always means a lot to me that you take time out of your day to watch me talk about things online, because we all got tons of stuff to do, and you watching me means a ton. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Oscar-worthy comic book movie performances. There have been, like I said, hundreds of comic book movies over the years, and there have been some amazing performances. There have been some lackluster performances, but we're going to be talking about the best of the best tonight, and we're going to jump into that in a minute. But first, we're going to talk a little bit of news. If you haven't been here in the last couple of weeks, neither have I. I've been away because the last 2 weeks ago, the episode would have been on Christmas Day, which myself and everyone else were busy. And then the next week, it was New Year's Day. So you were all busy, and I was busy that day as well. So I haven't been here for 2 weeks. I'm so excited to be back in the routine. I'm so excited that you could be here to watch the show. It means a bunch to me. But I hope you all had an amazing holiday. I hope you guys had an amazing New Year's. We had a great time here, my wife and I. We had a very low-key Christmas, which was great. We actually ended up going to the movies, and we're going to be talking about that as one of the reviews coming up. We exchanged some amazing gifts. You can check right here. That is one of the gifts from my amazing wife. She got me an on-air neon sign, which I absolutely love. And that is something I picked up for myself. If you are a Comic-Con, if you see me at Comic-Cons volunteering, I usually have a little fanny pack on to keep all my stuff in, but I picked one of these up. It's an over-the-shoulder little satchel thing. It's got a lot of room in it. I can't wait to bring that out to the next convention. I got to find some patches or stuff to put on there because it's a little too plain for me. I want to brighten it up a little bit, so those are two of the amazing gifts I got this year. I also, for those who don't know, I'm a giant Colorado Avalanche fan. That is my hockey team, and my wife graciously got me a Joe Sakic jersey. I have a maroon Joe Sakic jersey, but I now have the white one, and it also has the 2001 Stanley Cup patch, which I'm so excited about. If you're not a Colorado Avalanche fan, if you're not a hockey fan, there's a moment when the Colorado Avalanche won the Stanley Cup in 2001. One of my favorite players growing up, Raymond Bourque, who was a Boston Bruin, lived, breathed Boston, but Boston was never a contender, and he was never close to winning the Cup. So in order to get close to the Cup, he ended up being traded to Colorado. And after a couple years with Colorado, it was his last season, and Colorado won the Stanley Cup. And Joe Sakic grabs the cup, takes the photo, and instead of lifting it, he passes it right to Raymond Bourque, and Bourque holds it up, and everyone in the arena starts crying because everyone knew how important that moment was. I was a giant Ray Bourque fan growing up, but the second Joe took that cup and handed it to Ray Bourque, that made me a huge Sakic fan, and he became my favorite player. So I now have a Sakic jersey from that moment where he passes the cup, and I'm so happy. The problem is it's white, and I don't want to get it ruined because I hate white jerseys because I know I'm going to slop something on it or something's going to splash on it. I'm going to be so devastated, and then I got to clean it. It's just a pain in the butt. Justin Smith in chat says, Colorado, my team's rival. That means you're probably a Red Wings fan, and that's perfectly fine. I have some friends who are Red Wings fans, and you know what? Any rival, I'm definitely not someone who will crap on a rivalry if it wasn't for the amazing rivals, they would not make my team good, and my team needs their rivals. It bounces back and forth. So I appreciate all NHL teams except for Philadelphia. I can't stand Philly. I'm kidding. I love Philly. Anyways, so that was my Christmas. New Year's, we had a lot of fun here. We had a couple friends over and we played some games. It was a nice low key New Year's. And then the past couple weeks, we've been just getting ready to just get back into the swing of things. And this is one of those swings is Monday Night Nerd. Let's talk about a little bit of reviews because, like I said, on Christmas, we went to the movies. My wife and I got together and said, let's do something crazy. We got nothing to do on Christmas Day. We saw family before and after. We got nothing to do. We went to the movies on Christmas Day, and we went to see Godzilla -1. Oh my God, it was so good. It was such a good movie. I have seen, when I was little, my mom's boyfriend was very into that kaiju old school Godzilla movie. So I'd seen them before. I had seen Godzilla 2000. I'd seen the US one, and I've seen some of the newer ones. This was a different level. This was an incredible movie. It sucked you in from the minute the screen hit. It is all in Japanese. It's subtitled, but even with that, it just pulls you in with the story. The Godzilla thing is a backstory compared to the way these characters are written and how you just connect with them on an emotional level. Love the story, love the movie. It was so worth it. Go see it if you haven't seen it. Take time out of your day to go see it if you're a Godzilla fan. It is amazing. It was amazing on the screen, on the big screen. I will admit it was a little loud. I don't know if it was the theater, but it was a little loud to the point of being annoying. So if you have sensitive ears, keep that in mind if you go see it in the theater. But yeah, an amazing movie, an amazing time, and such a great way to spend the holiday. I really did enjoy that. We might make that a new thing going forward. Let's talk about another review. This is one where everyone's going to say, you haven't seen it. I have seen it. I just haven't seen it forever because it's just not something on my radar. Last night or 2 nights ago, I watched Mean Girls for the first time in so long. I've seen so many memes and everything from it, but sitting down and actually watching it from beginning to end, it was the first time since probably 2006, 2007 when it came out. It's still a good movie. It's still such a good movie. Had a really fun time with it. A few friends, a friend came over and we watched it, and then a couple friends, another friend of ours is having a birthday party in a couple weeks, and it is themed off Mean Girls. So it was good to see that movie and get a refresher, so we can be in the spirit of the birthday party. But it was such a fun movie. I think everybody has seen it. If you haven't, go watch it. It's pretty funny. Even today, it's still funny. There's such a good SNL cast in there, which I didn't really realize that. I forgot the principal was in that. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he was in it. Teacher was good. Lindsay Lohan's great in it. It's one of her best performances. But yeah, that was still fun to go back down memory lane and remember all the fun of that movie. Justin Smith in chat says the only Godzilla film I've seen in theaters was Godzilla '98 when I was a kid. You know what? I was the same way. I only saw Godzilla '98, and anything else I've seen either on DVD or streaming. Actually, I did see Godzilla versus Kong, but it was at a drive-in, and the quality wasn't good enough, in my opinion. It was a great movie, but just that's a movie you need to see on a good screen. I don't think it really lent itself well to a drive-in. And actually, funny story, that night, a friend of mine, we both went in separate cars, and it was one of those nights where it was freezing cold. So we were in the cars side by side, wrapped up in blankets, watching this because we both wanted to see this movie. And then after, we were subject to Wonder Woman 88 or 86, whatever it was. And yeah, that was bad too. So it was not a great night for going to the movies, I will admit. But it was a moment, and it was an experience, and I'm glad I have a story from it. The other review I want to talk about tonight is I'm not a TV guy. If you know me, I don't watch a lot of TV. Marvel is an exception, but I've never seen Breaking Bad. I've never seen Game of Thrones. I've seen one season of Walking Dead. Even a lot of the DC stuff, I've not seen much of Green Arrow, Flash, etc. I love Reacher though. Alan Richson. For those who know me, I have a man crush on Jason Statham. Alan Richson is this close to kicking Jason Statham off that pedestal, and he has taken his place. He is an incredible actor. He is amazing looking. I am perfectly fine in my sexuality to say that he is a beautiful looking man. But yeah, it is such a good show. I believe there's 2 episodes left in the show for the second season. He does great. The whole cast is great. The villain is what's his name from Terminator 2, the T-1000. It's a great show. It's a great series. I know it's based off books. I've never read the books, so that makes it even better. After the show, actually, back up. There are definitely some moments throughout the season that they've shot around where I live. So it is very fun to see them say they're going to Atlantic City and they're literally shooting 6 blocks from my house. And they actually just set up a production probably 5 blocks that way. And after this show, my wife and I are going to take our dog and we're going to go take a walk over there and see if they're actually shooting season 3. Because I know they're actually shooting season 3 right now. And if they're in Hamilton, that would be amazing. I doubt I'm going to see Alan Richardson, but if I do, I might faint because it is so cool. Anyways, I love the season. I can't wait to see the last 2 episodes. They've been great so far. They're killing it. I can't wait for season 3. Other than that, not much has been going on. Getting ready to start my cosplaying again. There is some fabric right there. That is the first bit of fabric I've bought in forever. That is what I'm going to be building my patterns with because I'm going to be starting Princess Kenny soon. And then I will be doing a little bit more on Ultron because Anime North, I'm trying my best to get Princess Kenny done by then. And then Ultron will be debuting at Fan Expo Canada 2024 in August. So excited to debut those cosplays. And later on in the year, we are going to be updating some other cosplays. Stay tuned to my Instagram. I'm going to be posting as many updates as I can. I've got you can't really see it from here, but I've got a camera rig sort of set up for my phone. I'm going to try and record all my progress on it and then start uploading it onto social media because I'm terrible at stopping and taking progress photos. So I figure if I just start recording, that'll be the best way to do it. So that's what's going on for cosplay. That is all the news for this week. If you're still here, thank you. Greatly appreciate it. If you could like, subscribe, share, all those things that every person on this platform asks for, be greatly appreciated. It tells the algorithm that you like what I'm doing and to pass it on to more people. And hopefully they like it and do the same. And we spiral and spiral and spiral. And that's how we get this channel to grow a little more. And maybe we get some really cool guests on here. Speaking of guests, next week, we're going to have a guest here on the podcast. If you follow Geeks & Co., it is not one of the Geeks & Co. members, but he has been on the Geeks & Co. podcast. He's going to be talking about cosplay. He's going to be talking about business because he makes a little bit of revenue from his cosplay. We're going to be talking to him and a whole lot more next week. So stay tuned. Come back next week because we got a cool guest ahead of us. Sponsor, as always. If you've watched the channel before, you know I have the sponsor every single week, and that sponsor is my wife. My wife will always be my sponsor. She is incredible. She is amazing. I would not be here without her. I would not have this beautiful home without her. I would not have my beautiful animals because of her. She is incredible. I would not be the man I am without her. Hun, I love you as always. Thank you for everything you do to support me and this house and everything in this world. I love you. Thank you. Let's jump into the main event and this second sponsor, Zoa. I love Zoa. I'm a rock shill. I will fully admit I'm wearing Under Armour shirt. I've got Under Armour shoes. I've got Zoa. I love The Rock. I'm glad he's back. We're going to talk a bit more wrestling next week because I've got some opinions on The Rock coming back to wrestling. But right now, let's jump into the main event. Let's talk about Oscar-worthy performances. So, what makes a performance Oscar-worthy? Well, memorable is obvious. That's something that goes without saying. The performance needs to be memorable. It needs to be captivating. It needs to have something that stands out in the movie and in the series, if you want to call it, because there's a lot of these movies that have multiples. Something that stands out that makes you remember the performance and doesn't get left in the dust with the rest of them. There have been hundreds, thousands of performances from big characters to small background characters, and all of them are in contendership to what is an amazing Oscar-worthy performance. And let's just get it out of the way. There's 10 of them on this list. I'm not counting as a top 10. This is not going in any order. This is just who I thought of as what I considered should have deserved an Oscar or an award or something for their performance, because it is memorable and they did an incredible job that sticks with me more than any other performance. Let's start off with the one everyone knows because he did win an Oscar for it, postpartum, sadly. Heath Ledger's Joker. Now, if you've watched the channel before, you know I am not a fan of The Dark Knight. Go check out one of the old videos for my feelings on The Dark Knight. Not a fan of the movie. I'm not going to go into why. Check out the worst comic book movies list, and you'll see my reasons why. But I have nothing against the Joker with Heath Ledger. He does an incredible job with this. I feel like he would have won the Oscar even if what happened didn't happen. His performance of the Joker, due to many different factors, when it comes to Nolan's directing, when it comes to the script, when it comes to, you know, him having to deal with his teeth and such, where he has to lick his lips and stuff. These are a lot of things that make this character stand out, that if you put it next to other Jokers, it's a departure. It's really a departure, especially when you're looking at what came before it. The Jack Nicholsons, the Mark Hamills. This is a different performance that could have went really bad. But Heath Ledger was great enough actor to hold that together and make what was, like I said, a different performance, make it his own and make it worth a standout role in that movie, in my opinion. He is one of the few people who has definitely brought not a craziness, because a craziness, you can do crazy in many different ways. You can do the Mark Hamill's Joker was crazy. Jack Nicholson's was crazy. Heath Ledger's had a psychoticness of it, where it wasn't just crazy. He had planned things, and he had ways of thinking that you could almost see the wheels turning as the situation's unraveling. And you can almost see his brain going, this is exactly how I want this to go, which I think he did an incredible job showing that in his acting style. He plays it well in such a serious story. He really shows this. He shows the gravitas of the situations, you know, kidnapping two different people, making Batman choose. Again, if you've seen my worst comic book, you know that I'm not a big fan of the way that they wrote it, where he where he has to choose between two people when there's Two-Face in the movie, but that's besides the point. But he definitely shows the seriousness of the situation, and he portrays it well. You know, I don't want to go too much into Heath Ledger, because a lot of people understand why he deserved the Oscar, and a lot of people have seen that movie and love that movie. But he is one of the few villains, and I do, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's one of the few, if only, villains that has made a catchphrase popular. And like, everyone understands the "why so serious" line and knows where it's from. I don't think there's any other villains that were able to do that. Maybe Thanos with Inevitable, but I don't think as much as "Why So Serious" by Heath Ledger's Joker. So he is definitely on the list because, well, he did win. And each one of these, I want to tell you one of the best scene to watch. You can check them out on YouTube. They're all there. The best scene for this one, in my opinion, is the interrogation scene with Batman in the police station. Mostly because I've always enjoyed the dynamic of Batman talking to a villain. I think there's the kicking, punching gadgets and all that Batman does, but I do love the sit down conversations, especially in places like Arkham and the GCPD station, where Batman is able to try to get an understanding of the villain. And I feel like that scene where Joker kind of explains to Batman in a cryptic way what's happening. That's my favorite scene. I love it. There's no act. There's not. Well, there's some action. He slams his head off a table and punches him a couple times. But that is the scene that I love. That is my favorite Heath Ledger scene. Next on the list, the one that I think no one realized how impactful it was until you get to the last movie, and that's the one on this list. That is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in Logan. That movie, I don't think any comic book fan was ready for it. I think if you've read the Old Man Logan book, you had an idea of what was going to happen in that movie, but the emotion in that movie is I don't think anybody was prepared for how emotional that movie was. This is a character that we had seen grow up from what was kind of the first big comic book movie over decades in different iterations to end in such a dramatic way in a movie that had nothing like the other ones. Hugh Jackman's performance in that movie was, again, it was nothing like the character we'd seen before. In almost every scene, you see the hurt, the pain, the sorrow that this character has been through for decades. And we know that Wolverine has been around for generations, possibly. But to see it all come together, and even if you push that away and say X-Men 1 was the first thing, and all of that was built up into this movie, you see his performance is not an energetic Logan. It's not a, I'm good at killing and killing's what I do best. That's not the Wolverine you get. You see a very broken Logan. The bleakness of the world that he inhabits, knowing that the X-Men are gone and all that is left, and X-23 shows it, are comic books. And you find out why that happened. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but it just, the pain that Hugh Jackman shows in that role, you understand why this is one of the first times you feel why Logan wants to die. And that is crippling for a kid who has grown up with Logan and Wolverine. The relationship with him and Xavier is so relatable if you've dealt with an elderly grandparent or parent. The relationship with X-23 is relatable if you've ever had a child. It's something, again, that I don't think anyone realized how human the movie would be in such a spectacular comic book world. The ending with X-23, the realization that it's over and him being okay and knowing that X-23 could survive is heartbreaking. And let's not get into when X-23 pushes the crossover and it turns into an X, and every nerd bawled, because I sure as hell did, and I think everyone in the theater did. I've seen enough clips of that movie that I've pretty much seen it twice, but I've not watched that movie from beginning to end because I know I'm just going to cry again because it is such an amazing performance. And I do think he deserved an award for that performance. Best scene in that movie is the gas station scene. It is showing how overwhelmed Logan is in this movie. It is a man that has fought sentinels and villains and bad guys from end to end to end to end, but having to deal with an elderly Professor X and a child X-23 is so overwhelming for him, and he shows it so well in that scene. Alex in chat, my only complaint about Logan was that it was too soon. Should have been 20 years from now after he was done a few more. I think at that point when they were writing it and getting it ready, I think that was it for him. And I think things have happened, especially with what's coming up with Deadpool. I don't think anyone thought that stuff like that was going to happen. So he wanted to come back and do it. But I agree. I think couch quarterbacking, I think we definitely could have, I would have liked for them to have waited a little longer, but that's what happens. It happens. Now, kind of going off that, showing an emotional performance, showing something that shows the heartache that someone's going through, we have to talk about Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda from Wakanda Forever. Wakanda Forever is nothing compared to the original Black Panther, and we understand why. But the performance of Angela Bassett was unbelievable. Showing her hurt for losing a son, figuratively in the movie, literally, you can see the pain in her eyes, in her emotion, but you also see her having to be a queen to a civilization that lost the person who was going to take over. Obviously the death really impacted the way the script was written and having to address it because that was supposed to be going on forever. But Angela really gathered her anger, her sadness, her emotion, and put it out there for the world to see in a performance that I sadly goes on. I think it's lost. I really think it's lost based on how that movie was received. Edith in chat said, I bawled my eyes out at Wakanda Forever. It was so well done. It was. And as she says, the ending. Yeah, agreed. And I feel like that's part of it, where, you had a great performance by Namor, you had a great performance by Angela Bassett, Shuri, and all the characters, but I feel like there's a lot that stumbles in that movie and it overpowers all the great performances. The biggest problem was you had Jamie Lee Curtis going against her at the Oscars. And obviously based off my name, I am a Halloween fan, and I loved seeing Jamie Lee Curtis finally get awards for her performance. And let's be honest, it was a Lifetime Achievement Award. I can't sit here and say that while I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once and I loved her performance in it, it was a Lifetime Achievement Award. We're all aware of it. But she did such a good job that it was hard to compete. And I think if Jamie Lee Curtis was not there in that role at that moment in her life, I think Angela should have won the Oscar. And it was, and as JS said, that was such a good speech, even though Wakanda Forever. And that is the scene. The best scene in that movie is her doing the speech, because it is what everyone was feeling when it came to the audience, when it came to the cast, when it came to the crew, when it came to Marvel. Everybody was feeling the way she felt, and she let all of her emotion out during that scene. So that is the best scene in that movie, is her speech. This one could be controversial, but I have my reasons for it. My next choice is Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman from the original Wonder Woman. Not 84, not Justice League, none of that. The original Wonder Woman. I feel like that performance is underappreciated based off what has been done with that character since. I will admit, I don't want to say I wasn't thrilled to see Wonder Woman when it was announced. When I heard Wonder Woman was going to be announced, I just kind of went, cool, great, whatever. When I saw the actress, when I saw Gal Gadot was chosen, I felt the same way. I went, okay, odd choice, but whatever. Once I saw the trailer, I changed my opinion. Once I sat there and watched the movie, I was so emotionally attached to that character. Gal Gadot's performance was it was exactly what needed to happen for people who do not look like me. I can fully admit that that is a movie geared towards young girls and women in general. I'm not the audience for it, but I'm smart enough to see that and I know why they did it. And I'm glad they did it because they made me a fan of it. Gal's performance showed strength, it showed naivete, it showed curiosity, which I think is something that that character, especially in the origin stories that I've read, really it lacks. And I think they did a great job showing that in that movie. You know, she's chiseled from stone if you want to go that route from the comics. She's just an Amazonian and she's from the island and all that. But her strength as, you know, being Wonder Woman is one thing, but then when she goes to Earth, I guess you'd call it, when she goes and meets Steve Trevor and Steve Trevor shows her the world that he lives in and she sees what women are like there and she's confused. She's naive to, well, I'm just going to be myself and, you know, dress a certain way that, especially in those times, would have been very frowned on. But she does it in a way that isn't belittling to the character. It isn't joked by the character. It's honestly a character trying to understand her new world. It's a very fish out of water, but she plays it so well. She's able to show strength, but also showing the sensitivity when losing Steve Trevor in the end. Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. And honestly, by the end, she is an equal to Bruce and Superman, in my opinion. We saw Man of Steel. I believe we had not seen Ben Affleck's Batman by that point. I don't believe BVS was out by that point. But at that point, by the end of that movie, she was equal. In my opinion, she is one of the three pillars of DC, and she fit that role perfectly by the end. And I feel that that was a perfect choice, and I did a great job in it. The best scene in that movie was the No Man Land scene. When she stands up and runs across that battlefield, I got teary-eyed. I'd be fully honest. And if I had a daughter, that was the scene that I wanted her to see. To show that she was willing to stand up for what she believes is right and take all of that gunfire on her own. Like that was one of the bravest scenes, not knowing, you know, everyone not knowing she's pretty much invulnerable, but an incredible scene. An incredible scene, hands down, loved it. Chris Evans. And you know what? Let's put these two together. Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. You know, I have them separate on here, but they both do an incredible job here. Chris Evans, Captain America for Endgame, and Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark from, I'm going to choose the original Iron Man. You could pretty much put him in any movie, and he does an incredible job. Captain America, Chris Evans, the it's hard to explain that you have a character like Captain America and Chris Evans takes that little boy New York feel and uses it throughout his performance in every movie, but especially in Endgame. He's still that little boy from day one. And that line of I can do this all day is perfect for that character. The way he brings so much emotion that he's dealt with over the past X number of years in their universe and in our universe bringing all that emotion into Endgame and going from sadness of seeing Peggy standing tall against Thanos and showing bravery, the emotional relief and sadness, joyful sadness of On Your Left when everyone shows up after he's standing tall alone, the sadness of losing Tony, old man Cap of understanding that this shield belongs to somebody else now, to the joy of being with Peggy. It's such an emotional roller coaster, and Chris Evans does an incredible job in every moment of that movie. I feel like that was a huge miss for that entire Oscar run, because his emotional arc through just that movie was Oscar worthy, let alone if you've seen all of it beforehand. Best scene in that movie is the old man Cap scene. Him sitting on a bench with Bucky and Falcon next to him and him passing the shield to Falcon. I still can't watch that without crying. I've watched that so many times and I still can't do it. The Tony dying is one thing. I think because I knew going in he was probably done. It's the same with the Spider-Man when he's dying in Tony's arms. It didn't really affect me that much. But him passing the torch to Falcon and then saying that he doesn't want to talk about the ring, and then you see him and Peggy and him getting his happy ending. I'm honestly starting to well up a little now just talking about it. It is the perfect ending to a movie. And if you were with me at that theater, I was ugly crying. It was so good. Robert Downey Jr. What else can be said about Robert Downey Jr. that hasn't been said before? The idea of taking a character like Iron Man, like Tony Stark, and bringing it together with an actor was such a daunting task for Marvel. But to just take someone who has been Robert Downey Jr. or has been Tony Stark and had a history of alcoholism and pitfalls like Tony did, and saying we might as well just do RDJ, and RDJ knocking it out of the park. Like the path of the career of Robert Downey Jr. mimics Tony Stark to a T, where he had a great patch at the beginning, but he had struggles, and then he comes out at the end. And looking at this person back in the 90s, in a courtroom, going to jail, and knowing that in 15 years he's going to be going to kids' hospitals and kids are going to be so excited to see him. That's such an arc, and it fits the Tony Stark character so well. And if it wasn't for him doing an incredible performance in the first movie, in the first Iron Man, you wouldn't have an MCU. He knocked it out of the park because he had lived that life, and he knew that he lived that life, and he brought all of it to it. The cockiness of Tony Stark, the one-liners of Tony Stark, he knocked it out of the park in that first one. The best scene of Tony Stark in Iron Man 1 is that first scene in the trucks. It lays the groundwork in about 3 minutes of what Tony Stark is like, and he just knocks it out of the park. I think if you failed in that little bit at the beginning, him getting captured, him coming back, and all that wouldn't have had as much gravitas and importance as if they messed up that first bit. So Tony Stark, Iron Man, easy. Everyone talks about it. This one is not one that a lot of people remember, but as soon as I say it, everyone's going to go, yep, makes sense. Hugo Weaving, V for Vendetta. What can be said about V for Vendetta that, again, hasn't already been said? This is a movie that I think a lot of the general public who aren't comic book fans don't even realize is a comic book movie, because it's such a non-superhero type movie. I think a lot of people think of MCU and DCU, but no, V for Vendetta, I have the book right there, is an amazing graphic novel. And Hugo Weaving doing a performance in a mask without being able to show his emotion in his face just obliterates the performance. I think This is one that went under the radar when it came out, but later on, people really understood how important that movie was and how great his performance is. If you've read the comics, you know he does such a good job for the character. The way that he performs V honestly shows that he is terrifying. But just like Natalie Portman's character, there is an intrigue to him, a suaveness to him that brings her in and brings the audience in to want to learn more about him. He does a great job. And again, this is all with no face. All you see is the mask. And the presence of him is just intimidating. You know that when he's about to do something, or even when he's just in a room, you know something could happen at any moment, and you feel that fear in every scene with him. And again, I stress it. This is when you have no emotional face to deal with. You can't show the emotion that you feel on a blank canvas. But the mask works so well to bring that through, even though it doesn't move. You just believe every word he says. And I feel like if you didn't have a good enough performance like Hugo Weaving did, it would just fall apart. And it wouldn't be the movie that it is now. I've seen this movie. I will admit I've seen this movie less than I probably should. I should probably watch this more because it's a great performance. The best performance or the best scene in this movie is the 5th of November speech on the rooftop. The psychoticness of him starting the orchestra and blowing things up, and the laugh is just beautiful. I love it. It's such a good scene. I can't say anything bad about it. Go watch it. If you haven't seen it in a while or you haven't seen it at all, go watch it. Another one that I think really goes undeserving. This person did such a good job in this role, and I think she is so uncredited because I don't know. I love the performance, but I don't know many that will say the same. Chloe Grace Moretz as Hit Girl in Kick-Ass. This is the role that proves you can do a Batman and Robin and do a kid version of Robin. DC has always struggled with that. They've never been able to do a kid version because they don't want to show the craziness of Batman being mentally okay with putting a child in harm's way. But I feel like, and I'm pretty sure this is why it was written this way, because Hit Girl's dad is kind of Batman. But Chloe's performance just shows that if you get the right child actor, and she's not really a child actor, I believe she was early 20s when she did it, but get someone who looks like a child actor to pull off the performance of a Robin or a sidekick like that. She does an incredible job. You honestly see her as an equal and can survive on her own. You know, I remember hearing an interview with somebody talking about Robin, and I don't want to keep comparing her to Robin, but she really is that role. You know, a lot of people say that Robins over the years have slowly gained more armor and gained more, more safety. But Chloe, her performance and the character Hit Girl show that she should be good enough to not have to care about that because she's trained so well that she knows she's not going to get hit. And I think that is a way that you could write that character and write that properly in a Robin role. That's enough talking about Robin. Chloe's performance is incredible. You honestly believe she could murder a whole room and it be convincing. Kick-Ass is a great character and it really shows the male side of it, which I think a lot of young kids, I shouldn't say kids, teens, early 20s, look at that character and think, well, I could do that because he's just a kid who, he doesn't have any special powers. But Chloe takes that character of Hit Girl and makes it very innocent looking, but so deadly. And as soon as she starts swinging, you know people are in trouble. Her emotion, her switch is so good. Her switch from being from the innocent look of her, you know, in the schoolgirl outfit, I believe it's early to midway through the movie, to being a full-on ass kicker. Such a good switch that, again, it's almost like the Bruce and Batman, where you have to play it both ways properly or they both fall apart. And Chloe does a great job at both. The partnership with Nick Cage, her looking at Nick Cage as a father figure and you really believing that they could be father and daughter. Her emotion of losing her dad in the movie. Spoiler, it's been out for so long. I shouldn't need to say spoilers, but the emotion that she shows for him dying and then going straight into revenge is beautiful. The second movie does a great job too, but her performance in the first one was so good because we didn't see it coming. The best scene in the movie is when she attacks the mob boss's headquarters. She, again, starts very innocent coming in the schoolgirl look, and everyone falls for it. And then she just slaughters everybody. It's a great scene. Go watch Kick-Ass. You know what? I might watch that again soon because it was such a good movie and I don't feel like I watched it. I've seen it enough. It's so good. We got a couple left. We got about 3 more left. We're going to go back. Old school. I don't mean too bad. I mean 2000s comic book movies. Now, I know this is the era where a lot of people look and say, oh, this is the era we don't talk about. We talk about Spider-Man, but everything else we just don't talk about. Let's talk about Daredevil. And no, I'm not going to say Ben Affleck. I get why people don't like it. I like that performance personally, but I get why people don't. Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin. I think he deserved a little more for that than what he got. Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin is underrated as hell. It gets so forgotten, but he was good. And I feel like he deserved a lot more than he got for that role. And again, similar to roles that we've talked about earlier in the show, this is one that if you took the original Kingpin from the comics and even the animated series Spider-Man and any other iterations and put them next to Michael Clark Duncan, it's a departure from the character. And I feel like that's where some people kind of go, well, he's Kingpin, but he's an alternate Kingpin. Whatever. I think he did an amazing job and brought a change to the character, which I think was needed, especially due to when it was made. You know, he was the first live action Kingpin, so he really didn't have a lot to work with besides the animated series and such. But I think the biggest thing about a Kingpin role, and I think Vincent D'Onofrio is showcasing it now, and the Into the Spider-Verse animated version showed too, is the biggest thing about Kingpin is he needs to be intimidating, he needs to be menacing. And Michael Clark Duncan does that. He is definitely an intimidating character in that movie, especially, and this will be the scene we talk about later, the first scene of him when he's standing in the window holding a cane as they pan up the side of Fisk Corp? I can't remember his company. Fisk Corp? I think it's Fisk Corp. That sounds weird. Anyways, it's an intimidating look. And him fighting Daredevil at the end of the movie, you see a side of him that I think can be missed. I think the animated, the Across or Into the Spider-Verse version really showcased what's the word I'm looking for? The calm anger that Kingpin should deliver. The standing, I'm trying to explain it. It's hard to see without visually showing it. just the intimidation of him standing there, knowing that he could swing his fist once and probably kill whoever he's fighting, and not having to show it off. I think that's definitely a part of the Kingpin performance that Michael Clarke Duncan does that really needs to be applauded, because when he stands up against Daredevil in that last scene, you believe that he's just got to land one punch and Affleck's dead. So I really think he does a good job of that. And I also think, like I said, it's a different take on it. That pan's going up in front of him and they're playing NERD lap dance. He's got sort of a pimp swagger to him without having to really show it, which I really enjoy. So yeah, I really appreciate his performance. And yeah, his intro, just introing the character, was really cool. I think they did a great job with him. And again, I think it's one of the underrated performances, especially of those movies, because everyone looks at, Ghost Rider, Hulk, etc. They just kind of laugh at them, but he did a good job. So, let's see. What do we got here? And Mike in chat talking about Echo. Yeah, Echo comes out tomorrow. I'm interested to see what I'm interested to see what they do with Echo and the Kingpin role. I know there are a couple rumors of cameos coming into the series. I'm interested to see what they do with it. It's definitely a character that I don't have a lot of history with from reading the comics. I've read a little bit about her, but I think they did a good job with her and the Hawkeye series, and I'm interested to see what they go from, what they do with the character as a solo act. Vincent D'Onofrio does a great job as Kingpin, so I can't say anything bad about him. This one, I think this final two, this one is one that everyone's going to agree with. I don't think anyone can say anything bad about this. This is a Lifetime Achievement Award for this person because he's done it for so many movies and he's killed it in every single one. J.K. Simmons is J. Jonah Jameson. Like, hands down, if something happened to J.K. Simmons tomorrow, we wouldn't know what to do with J. Jonah Jameson anymore, because that is J. Jonah Jameson. He took a character which was really a side character. He really was a side character in the Marvel Spider-Man universe. But he does such a good job in the MCU now and in all three Spider-Man movies that he blows it out of the park. And every time he's on screen, it's captivating. Like, that is, again, a character that could be thrown out the window. He could have a couple things here and there, and that's it. But you know what? The way they wrote him and the way he took that character, and again, did his own take on it. The J. Jonah Jameson from the comics, and if you want to go Spider-Man animated series, that was a different J. Jonah Jameson. J.K. Simmons' quick-wittedness, it almost feels improv. He's so good at it. I don't know how to say it. It's just, he does such a great job. The turns that he does of feeling compassion for Spider-Man when he thinks he's dead to, I can't believe he's back and he's menacing again. JK just rules. Plain and simple. Again, I don't think anyone can say anything bad about him, and I really do think he deserves a Lifetime Achievement Award for what he's brought to a character that a lot of people count as a very side character in the Spider-Man universe. Important, but side character, and made him a figurehead in now the MCU, in the Spider-Man universe now. And yeah, let me see. I've got a couple notes here. Yeah, like the opening of Spider-Man 2, where he's got the memorial of the suit, he's all upset and then jumps into the menacing Spider-Man when Spider-Man jumps back in and rips the suit back, takes it back. Unbelievable. Yeah. As Mike says in the chat, J.K. Simmons is the GOAT. Yeah, I can't say anything bad about him. I think everybody jumped up and applauded when they saw him appear at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. So great job with that. The best scene is Spider-Man 2, easily. Spider-Man 2, naming Doc Ock, going through the different names, saying, Doctor Strange. I like that. Choosing Doc Ock, and then Peter coming in saying he wants to be paid in advance, and everybody's seen the meme of him laughing, and then, are you serious? It's perfect. It's J. Jonah Jameson to a T, and that and every other performance deserves the awards. So J. Jonah Jameson, hands down, an incredible character brought to you by J.K. Simmons. The last one is the Joker with Heath Ledger is one thing. Logan over the decades of movies is another. But there's only one that wrote the blueprint of how to create a comic book character, especially someone who's a dual personality or a dual performance. And that is Christopher Reeve's Superman. That is, as Mike says for JK, Christopher Reeves is the GOAT. Hands down. It is not a movie from today, but if you've never gone back and seen the original Superman, you are doing yourself a disservice. That was a movie that I slept on because I was of the generation of X-Men, Spider-Man from 2000 forward. But I went back and watched the original Superman, and I so understand now why that movie is held to such high regards. He didn't have anything to work with. There were movies before, but they weren't the best. But what Christopher Reeves does with Superman is hard to top because I think so many people, especially ones that do a Superman or a Batman, where they have to play the hero and the civilian roles. And as I've said, they're different performances. And it's because of performances like Christopher Reeves that you have to do it that way. It's very easy, and I think that's one of the reasons why the new Superman and the new Batman kind of get the flack that they do, is it's such the same performance. Having, in the Man of Steel, having Clark Kent throw a truck through a telephone pole and, standing up with his chest out in front of everybody in the bar. That's not what Clark Kent is really supposed to be. You're not really hiding yourself if you're showing off how big and bold you are. The way Christopher Reeves plays Clark Kent to Superman it's incredible. It is honestly two different performances. The bumblingness seems so natural for Clark. The tripping over his words, even his posture. If you slow down and really look at the posture of Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent to Superman, there's a difference. He's very slouched over when he's Clark. He's very broad shoulders and broad chest when he's Superman. That is such a small note that not many people realize it. But it's such a good job, and it really shows that it's two performances. I think other people try to take what Christopher Reeve did and put it into their version of it, but it feels artificial for me. Andrew Garfield is an incredible Spider-Man. I think he's got the one-liners, he's got the whipness and the flips and the movements of Spider-Man. I don't buy him as a Peter Parker, though. His bumblingness seems so fake. Even like we all know the reason why, but it comes off fake. If you were Gwen Stacy or you were, Flash Thompson or something, you'd look at him and go like, he's trying too hard. Even an odd one that I picked up on when I watched it was Edward Nygma in Batman Forever, played by Jim Carrey. When he was just Edward Nygma working at Wayne Tech, he's so over the top that it's like, this person wouldn't be hired by Wayne Tech. You'd start to wonder, like, what's he thinking about? He shouldn't be acting this way. He's not normal. But Christopher Reeves being bumbling and sort of like, I don't know, I'm trying to become a reporter and I'm trying my best. He plays it so natural, and it's incredible. He does such a good job. The emotion at the end of him losing Lois Lane is something that I don't think a lot of people really realize. It felt real when he realizes he's lost Lois. The scream he lets out is so guttural that you feel the emotion of it after only spending one movie with them. And overall, he built the blueprint for that type of performance. And if you want to see a great moment in that movie between how he performs as he performs as Superman, but you can also see hints of Clark in it almost as a tease, is Lois Lane interviewing him on her balcony. I think it's about the midway point of the movie. The flirtation they have, the strong presence of Superman, but you can, like I said, you also see hints of Clark in the tone he uses, but still keeping the presence of Superman. The openness of being able to answer the questions and not feeling like he needs to hold back. The little vulnerable to a point. Does an incredible performance, and Lois Lane does an incredible performance back. It's the blueprint. It's the reason that we have performances like this, and I think every single one did the same thing where they saw this performance and are trying to do it now, and you just can't beat the GOAT. Christopher Reeves, hands down, should have deserved all the awards. That's my top 10. So let's go through them again quickly. We've got Heath Ledger, who obviously won. Hugh Jackman for Logan should have won something. Angela Bassett, if it wasn't for another amazing actress, Jamie Lee Curtis at the time, she should have won for Wakanda Forever. Gal Gadot for the original Wonder Woman should have got something. Chris Evans for Endgame and the entire MCU run. Robert Downey Jr. as well for not only Iron Man 1, but again, the whole run. Chloe Grace Moretz, like, oh my God, for Hit Girl as Kick-Ass. Michael Clark Duncan for Kingpin, the first version of Kingpin on live action screen, deserved a lot more than what he got. J.K. Simmons for J. Jonah Jameson. And last but not least, Christopher Reeves, the original, the OG for the Superman movie. Folks, it has been a great time here tonight. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for being in chat. Thank you for letting me know what your thoughts are on the list. It's been a pleasure. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, share, all those fun things here on YouTube. It means a lot. Next week, we are going to have a guest. I'm triple checking with make sure this guest can come. We talked a long time ago. We're going to talk next week about cosplay. We're going to talk about this person uses cosplay to get a little bit of income. We're going to get some insights into how they started that. We're going to talk about a lot more. I don't want to say who it is just in case there's a reason why they can't make it, but check out my Instagram and the rest of my socials. I'll be posting about that in the next couple days. Folks, have a great week. I can't wait to see you next week. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all next week here on the next Monday Night Nerd. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.